Today, we're putting on our detective hats and diving into a mystery that's happening on a scale so small you can't even really wrap your head around it. We're going to be cracking the crystal code.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the evidence. What you're looking at here is an atomic model of these tiny gold crystals, just 2 nanometers across, scattered all over a nanotube. Now, to put that in perspective, a single human hair is about 80,000 nanometers wide. So yeah, we are talking unbelievably small. So when you look at how these crystals are laid out, what do you see? Does it just look like a total mess? Like somebody just sprinkled them on there? Or is there something more going on? A secret pattern, maybe? An organizing principle that our eyes just can't pick up? And that right there, that's the mystery we're trying to solve. To figure this out, we've got to go on a little nanoscale investigation. And trust me, at this scale, your standard magnifying glass isn't going to cut it. Nope, we need some heavy-duty scientific tools to really see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just looking at it, even with the most powerful microscopes, it's not enough. We have to turn what we see into actual, hard data. So let's crack open the toolbox that scientists use for this kind of thing.
Okay, so our first big clue comes from a technique that honestly has a super cool name, lattice fringe visibility. This is basically the first step for scientists to start seeing patterns that are completely invisible to us.
So what does that even mean? Well, think of it this way. Every single crystal has this internal grid-like structure, right? It's the lattice. And depending on the angle, how it's tilted and arranged, it makes a totally unique visual pattern. It's almost like a fingerprint. And lattice fringe visibility, that's just the science of figuring out or predicting what that fingerprint is going to look like.
And this shows it perfectly. See the map on the left? That's what scientists predict we'd see if the crystals just grew straight up, in columns. But the one on the right? That's a totally different pattern. It's called epitaxial growth. That's where the crystals actually line up with the structure underneath them. 2 completely different fingerprints. So this is huge, right? It means if we can figure out what the real map looks like, we can match it to one of these predictions and boom, case closed.
Okay, that's great in theory. But how in the world do you get a clean map from a real, messy image with hundreds of these little particles? Well, for that, we need our next tool. Let's call it our digital fingerprinting kit. The official name is digital dark field analysis, and it's this incredibly powerful computer method that can scan a really complex image and act like a super smart filter. You can literally tell it, hey, find me only the crystals pointing in this one specific direction, and it will highlight just those and ignore everything else. It's pretty amazing. And here, you can see it actually doing its thing. You start with that kind of messy-looking image in the middle. Then the analysis just goes to work, and bam, it pulls out 4 totally separate groups. Each of these other images shows only the crystals that are tilted at a very specific angle. 0 degrees, 25, 50, and 71. It's kind of like digitally sorting through a huge crowd and asking only the people looking north to raise their hands. All right. Let's recap. We've got our theoretical maps from lattice fringe visibility. We've got our awesome digital tool for analyzing the real-world image. All the clues are laid out on the table. So I think it's time. Let's bring them together and crack this thing. And this is the moment of truth. What we're about to do is take that theoretical map, the one that shows what the pattern should look like if there's a certain kind of order, and we're going to put it right next to the actual data, the real stuff, gathered from hundreds of these nanoparticles. Okay, here it is, the big reveal. On the left, you've got the theory, that predicted map for the epitaxial growth pattern. And on the right, that is the real experimental data from 212 nanoparticles. I mean, just look at that. The patterns, they're a match. It's a beautiful match. And just like that, mystery solved. What looked like just a chaotic, random mess is, well, it's not. The answer is literally crystal clear. There is absolutely a hidden organizing principle here. It's not random, not at all. So that's a really cool piece of scientific detective work, right? But you might be asking, so what? What are the real-world stakes here? Why should we care that we found this hidden order and cracked this tiny little code? Well, it matters a lot because this isn't just some abstract science experiment. The very same nanoparticles we've been looking at, they're used as catalysts in really important things like fuel cells. And here's the kicker. For a fuel cell to work really well, the crystals can't just be splattered on there randomly. Their exact alignment, that hidden order we just uncovered, is everything. It's what makes the technology perform.
And here's the really crucial takeaway. Once we understand the rules, once we know how these tiny structures organize themselves, then we can start to control them. We can literally start building new materials from the atoms up. We're talking about designing way more efficient fuel cells, creating better, faster electronics, maybe even inventing brand new materials with properties we can't even imagine yet.
But, to really take control of this tiny world, scientists have to be fluent in its language. And that brings us to the next and maybe most important piece of the puzzle. So the big question is, how do you actually precisely describe and predict this order? I mean, you can't just look at it and guess. You need a language that's as exact and as precise as the nanoscale world itself. And that language, well, of course, it's math.
Okay, now don't panic. I promise there's no test at the end. But this equation, it's not just a bunch of random symbols. It is the code we've been talking about. Think of it as the mathematical recipe that can predict a crystal's fingerprint every single time. With this, scientists aren't just observing patterns anymore. Now they can predict them, and from there, they can control them. And that's how we go from just watching something happen to actually making something new.
And all of this leaves us with one last kind of mind-blowing thought. Today, we cracked one tiny code. We found a hidden order that's going to help power new technologies. But you have to remember, this is just one little corner of a massive invisible world. So you have to wonder, what other secrets are out there? What other hidden rules are just waiting at the nanoscale for the next detective to come along with the right tools and crack the code?